All right, we are recording. This is our second meeting for our new teacher support program, and we are happy that you guys are here. Thank you for being here and being on time. We have some special guests joining us today from the Access Points team. I will let you guys introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Anne-Marie O'Brien, ESE research teacher for Access Points, and I primarily support schools in the central area, out west, Royal Palm, Wellington, and out in Belle Glade and Pahokee, and a little bit in the north. Not the south, though.
Just a little bit of everything. Well, thank
south.
you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, everybody. I'm Penny Robinson Tubbs. I share the same title as Anne Marie. Most of my schools are in the central area. I have one in the north and a couple in the south, but thank you all for being here. Hopefully this will help you guys, okay?
All right, well, I will go ahead and share our PowerPoint and get us started. Just so you guys know, we are, oh, I can't share my screen. There we go. All right, can everybody see that? All right, so our focus today, we're talking about standards and access points and interventions and IEPs. Oh my, right? You guys have so many things going on, so many different things. And just a heads up, today we're really just going to scratch the surface for you, right? We only have a limited time together, so we want to make sure you kind of have an overview, know what questions to ask. And then if you have more specific questions, if you have students on access points, hopefully we can connect you with that person who can support you with that. Or if you don't have students on access points and you have students on standards, we can give you a little more information there. All right, so our agenda for today, we're going to do a quick celebration, just talk about the things that are going well. We want to hear from you guys, and then we're going to discuss the instructional focus in your classroom. So we're going to talk about the standards and access points. We're going to talk about teaching in a multi-grade level classroom, and then we are going to do some breakout groups. So we'll have a breakout group for those of you who have access students on access points in your classes, and then those of you that do not have students on access points, and we'll tell you what the follow-up coaching is going to look like.
All right, so let's start with some celebration. We met last month. We talked about classroom setup and organization and structure, and we have been coming to your classrooms and seeing all the wonderful things that you guys are doing, but we would love for a few of you to unmute and share something that you have tried or changed since our last meeting that's having a positive impact in your classroom. So who is willing to share some celebrations?
I can share. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Go for it.
Hi. I tried rotations for the first time today, and my kids all stayed in their centers for 20 minutes. So that was like huge.
Wow, that's fantastic.
That's huge. Yes. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Who else is willing to share a celebration? That was a great one.
I'll share that we're all here together. Woo! How exciting!
Well, I can share that I've loved doing the coaching follow-up sessions with you guys, getting to come out and see your classrooms and the things that you are doing. You know, I know we've only touched on just a little bit, but even seeing those things in your classroom, seeing you guys try the visual schedules and the rotations and all of that classroom setup that we talked about, and just asking questions. You guys have some really awesome questions, and I love that we're able to be that support and field those questions for you. And if we don't have the right answer or the answer to your question, to kind of get you connected. So it's been nice to get into your classrooms and see some of you. I know some of you are still waiting on those follow-up coaching sessions from your admin or your ESE contact, but it's been nice kind of getting those started and giving you that additional level of support.
Yes, I've definitely enjoyed that too. And I will just give a shout out to Miss Stern. I was in her classroom this morning. She just started just, I don't know, I think a week and a half ago. So it's kind of one of those things where like the kids are there and I didn't have time to set up and here they are and we're supposed to be in the middle of unit 1 already. And it's, not an easy task. But, she welcomed me into her classroom today. I just want to say thank you to you, Ms. Stern, and for being open to, right away trying that transition signal and thinking about, how we're going to get kids in rotations and started on a schedule and all that stuff. So really, good start, even though it feels overwhelming. I get that. All right. So if anyone else is burning to share, guys, we're going to ask you to do this every time. Like the celebration thing is a big deal to us because we want you guys to be intentional about thinking about things that are going well in your classrooms. So we'll go ahead and go forth and maybe somebody will think of something they want to share by the end.
Absolutely. All right, so where should our instructional focus be? What should I be spending time doing in my classroom? You'll notice that standards and access points are the largest box here, and that's intentional, right? Because that's where your instructional time, your focus should be, right? But then in addition to that, we have some other pieces. So let's look first at the standards and access points. So your grade level standards and content that you are responsible for teaching. So if you have multiple grade levels, you may be teaching multiple grade levels within your classroom. And for each student, you're reporting progress towards these on the report card. So all of your students get a report card home and are reporting based on their grade level standards, whether it's general standards or access points. Then in addition to this, we have intervention, and intervention is approved evidence-based intervention that's delivered to students that have maybe reading or math deficits. And in order to choose which intervention you're going to use, follow the intervention decision tree and provide the intervention consistently and keep data on your progress. Then you have an IEP, and each of the students in your classroom have an IEP. These are those specific goals and accommodations tailored specifically to that student and their individual needs. And within that, you're going to report progress at the end of each trimester based on the data that you're entering into EdPlan. So you're entering in that data into EdPlan, and then when report cards come out at the end of the trimester, you're reporting progress on IEP goals. I know that probably a lot of you have lots of IEP questions, and we're going to point you to some IEP specific trainings as well, but we just kind of want to have a layout of this is where your instructional focus should be.
So let's bump this over to Anne or Penny. If you guys want to talk about this, that would be wonderful.
We didn't rehearse, so I don't care. You want to do rock, paper, scissors? No, I don't care. Whatever you want, Penny. Go ahead, Penny. I'll do the next round.
All right. So some of you, I guess each of you, we haven't met you, but you may have different makeups in your rooms. Your students are either working on general standards, or you may have some students who have met the criteria to be instructed on access points, which is our modified curriculum. So either way, you just have to make sure that you're teaching the correct version of the standards to the students as indicated. And hopefully we all know that the way that if they're on access points is you've got to look at that IEP under the standardized testing section. There's a section where we answer all those long list of questions, and then there will be a statement that says whether they're working on the general standards or the modified curriculum or the alternate assessment, which is what students on modified curriculum will take. Your kids on general standards take the FAST, which is that progress monitoring style assessment where we do it 3 times a year. At this time, the alternate assessment has not converted to be 3 times a year. But in any event, your Florida standards kids, you're following the academic expectations written for each grade level. And those, of course, reflect the core intent of the standards that apply to all students in the grade level or in the same grade. Then for access points, those are written as their academic expectations that are written specifically for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities too, as the keyword says, access, hence access points to general curriculum. Only about 1% of our kids will be placed on access points, so minuscule number of students. They are written as part of Florida's best standards, and they reflect, again, the core intent of the standards that apply to all students in the same grade level. However, they offer different reduced levels of complexity within which to work from and build a student's skill level. So we have under each column there, you'll see there's an example of a gen ed standard and how it, the full rigor of it. And then you can compare that to the access point standard where we're looking at reducing the complexity and what the students need to know. So read and write numbers from 0 to 1,000 using standard form, expanded form, and word form is your gen ed version. And then the access version will be read and generate numbers from 0 to 100. So you see how that the demand went down using standard form and expanded form. So that's the distinction. I'll let Anne take it away on the next slide.
Just a note there, just so y'all know too, there's no access points for kindergarten. So keep that in mind. This is 1st through 12th grade. And for every gen ed standard, there is an access points written for that. And again, I just want to start off by me saying, I know your challenges. I was in the classroom. I taught both gen ed standards and access point standards. And I taught all 4 core subjects. So I know that it can be very challenging, but hopefully what Lisa and Lauren are doing here, and then you can always reach out to myself or any of my teammates. We can help you kind of figure out how you're going to juggle that. But we know your struggle, and hopefully we can help you to figure out a way to get all those different standards in there, especially when you're teaching both. And remember, you can always teach up. So, and that's the one thing about access points, that you can modify it, but you can always teach up. We can always set that expectation a little bit higher for our students too. So
yeah, awesome. So when we break out into groups, they're going to kind of do a walkthrough of some resources that are on Blender for you guys. But before we do that, we want to first talk about these multi-grade level classrooms. And guys, Anne said it, I experienced it, Cheryl has experienced it, Lauren has experienced it, Penny has experienced it. It is probably the hardest thing about teaching in a self-contained ESE classroom is that oftentimes you're managing multiple grade levels, and sometimes in addition to that, standards and access points, and that can feel very overwhelming. And I think one of the things I hear from teachers the most is like, okay, but how do I do this, right? It's not like, okay, I teach kindergarten or 1st grade or 2nd grade or whatever, and I can just go on and follow the scope and sequence and differentiate it down for my kids. And it doesn't seem as easy as that, but you can do that to some extent. So we want to give you guys a couple of different options. And you're not necessarily going to be like, oh, I'm option 1 and only option 1. I actually used both options in my classroom, and there are probably more options, okay? But in trying to scratch the surface and giving you guys sort of an avenue to think about how to do this, we wanted to give you guys kind of like 2 different ways that you could think about a multi-grade level classroom. So if you take a block of time, like your ELA block or your math block, you should be thinking about it in 2 sections. One, something that you do whole group, and this can be very short, okay? Maybe your kids go a little bit longer, so maybe between 5 and 15 minutes, 5 and 20 minutes, something like that. And then the rest of your block of time that you have, you should think about small group, because it's gonna let you target your instruction more specifically if you spend the majority of your time in small groups. And so when we look at option 1, you can think about whole group as exposing to grade level standards or access points for the majority of your students. So let's say I'm teaching a grades 3 through 5 classroom, and most of my kids are in 3rd grade. Then maybe I would follow the 3rd grade, and maybe I have a 4th grader and a 5th grader. So I need to make sure that as I'm teaching that, I'm also looking at the standards of 4th and 5th grade, so I know how I need to bring that up for them. Or you could, teach to the highest and then kind of differentiate down. It's going to depend kind of on your learners though. So I, as a teacher, kind of always looked at, okay, where do most of my students fall? And then I would follow that scope and sequence, but I always was looking at the standards. So you can't forget about, just because I'm like following the pace of third grade, I'm never going to look at the fourth and fifth grade stuff. You can't do that. Now, I think that's easier to do in option one in ELA, because the continuum of things that you teach is a little bit more fluid, versus in math where it's like not as fluid. Like they're not doing decimals in third grade. So if you're following third grade, you're not going to hit that. So for something like math, I typically would follow something like option two, where in my whole group time, I would focus more on the foundational content that they all need, or that they have similar goals on, or that they need intervention in. And that's what I would do in whole group. And then in small group, I would differentiate more by grade level and expose them to their grade level content. So it's going to be kind of what works the best for you and what kind of makeup you have in your classroom, but you could think about it both ways. So this is something that you could go back to. Does anyone want to add anything to that?
Can I just jump in? Because a lot of times when you have multi-grade, this is Cheryl, by the way. Hi, everybody. When you have multi-grade classrooms, people are like, so why even do a whole group? So I want you to put on your behavior hats. All of us have them, right? That's when you also set the expectation for what the small groups are going to be. So just because we're talking about multi-grade classrooms and content today, I don't want you to forget all the great structure and consistency conversations that we had last time, right? That whole group not only sets the tone with the pacing and all of those great things that Lisa was talking about related to content, but it also helps you set the expectation for what the next 35, 45, 90 minutes are going to be. So don't shy away from doing a short whole group time, and make sure that there's a moment like we already celebrated for today. It's a great time to do a little celebration as well. Set the tone for positivity, set those expectations, and then move out into your small group. So no matter how you use the time, we want our students to also learn how to work within whole groups. Thank you.
Thanks for adding that, Cheryl. The other thing, Lisa, that I just want to add, because I know sometimes we look at our calendar and it's like 120 minutes of uninterrupted reading instruction. It's a long time. But guys, don't forget, movement breaks are great. We need them as adults. They need them as students. And also think about earn time, right? So within that rotational time, if you have, a 15-minute rotation, maybe the last 2 or 3 minutes, your students have finished doing their work and they get to earn time with their preferred activity, time, interacting with a preferred friend. So I think that too helps kind of break up the rotations, and it makes it a little bit more exciting because I know earn time is coming, or I know I'm going to have that opportunity to get up and have that movement break as well. All right, so some teaching tips. These are just some ideas for teaching for multi-grade level classrooms. So teaching to the middle and then differentiating up and down as needed. And we kind of hit on this, but here's an example. So teaching fractions with mixed numbers. So teaching some students to do fractions with mixed numbers. Some may be working on just basic fractions, right? 1/2, 1/4. And then some students might be using manipulatives to cut a pie in half, right? So we're all working on fractions as a whole group, but we're differentiating what that fraction activity might look like depending on your students and their specific needs. So when you're grouping, consider grouping by grade and not ability, because this allows you to cover the standards, right? So Lisa was talking about in math how it's a little bit harder because if you have third graders and fourth graders in the same group, they may be working on totally different skills. So if you're able to keep your students in those grade level groups, you're able to cover the standards that they're all working on. Then if you have one grade level in your classroom, or maybe you have multiple groups that have the same grade level, then you can consider grouping by ability or students who have similar IEP goals or skills that you need to be working on. And then something also to consider, and these are all just tips and things that you should be thinking about as you make your groups. Think about what IEP goals can be addressed in small group instruction versus what are those IEP goals that can be addressed throughout the day as we're going through, our normal daily routine and things like this. Also important to remember that groups can change, guys, right? They don't have to stay the same. So maybe it's September and you set your groups and you get working, but you start to notice, hey, putting back on our behavior hat. Hey, these two don't really work so well in a group. Is there another place where I could get that student to get their same standards? Or, maybe I need a smaller group. It really just depends on what your students need. But keep that in mind, because just because we set it as the group now, maybe one's making a little bit more progress, but you need to slow it down for another one. So just things to keep in mind.
Okay, Penny, you had added this, so could you chat about this a little bit?
Sure. One thing that I grabbed when I went to one of the, there was a conference on the best standards for ESE, and one thing that they shared that I thought was useful, not only in, it's really something they use a lot in inclusion. However, it has implications in a self-contained classroom, but there is an embedded skills grid. So if you click on where it says link to embedded skills grid, it will open up what it looks like. And essentially what you're doing is you're going to, for a student, you map out their daily schedule. And then you also, maybe along a column, you can put what all their IEP goals are. And then you can kind of map out those natural opportunities throughout the day to work on certain ones. And this is great because it can be shared with your staff, especially paras, so that they understand, at various times what we're all kind of targeting and what those goals are. So it just helps you to kind of plan it out. I thought it was a great document.
I'm so sorry, Penny. I tried to pull it up as you were sharing, but I don't have access. It said I had to request access.
I'll make sure to release it. Sometimes the computer world doesn't cooperate. And I
Okay, no
think I have
worries,
it
but
set,
we'll make sure you
yeah.
guys get that. But just another visual so you can kind of plan out when throughout the day you are
Mhm.
hitting on those IEP goals. All right, so then moving into the student's individual education plan, the IEP is not the same as the curriculum, right? This is separate. IEPs are created by the IEP team, usually including ESE and general education teachers, caregivers, parents, guardians, therapists, etc. The goals and objectives within the student's IEP are what they need individually, right? So we're looking at that specific child. What do they need so that they have opportunities to meet these standards? So we know the standards that are set in place. What can we do as a team, as their ESE support, to get them to opportunities where they can meet or exceed the standards? So it's your goal to incorporate the IEP goals and objectives within the daily lesson. So kind of like what we were talking about in your group planning, thinking about, okay, what are my students' IEP goals and which of these can I hit in a small group activity that I'm already doing with all of my students, and which of these might I need to, plan a specific part of day or pull them one-on-one to really focus on this individual goal. And you can see down there at the bottom, it says IEPs are located in Ed Plan. Click on the portal tile. And like I said, we're going to point you to a training that'll give you a whole lot more about IEPs, because we're definitely just brushing the surface. Anything you guys wanted to add about IEPs?
No, I mean, like we said, we're going to try to give you some more, specific information about it. But I do think that with all the things that teachers have to do these days, the IEP has lost some value, in my opinion, in the classroom. And I just want to bring that to your attention, because it is written with very specific things in it, because it's what your kids need. So trying to incorporate regular practice of IEP goals into what they are working on is so important, because if we only hit an IEP goal 4 times during a trimester, then we're really not giving them enough practice opportunities on the skills that the team is identifying that they're really needing in order to help fill those gaps. So one of the ways that we might be able to support you is trying to figure out how to infuse this more regularly and intentionally throughout your day. So if you're struggling with that or you're not sure, that is something we could assist you guys with in our follow-up coaching times.
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
When you guys are sitting down and you're doing those IEP meetings where you're drafting the IEPs, it's important for that grade level to kind of start looking ahead to the standards that are going to be covered in that next year. And remember, one of the things you're thinking of is what's holding them back from meeting those standards, and then also looking at what you're going to cover to where you're going to have the opportunity to work on that IEP goal. So you kind of want to be strategic, if that, hopefully that can help you guys along.
Awesome. Thank you. Go ahead,
One thing
Cheryl.
I just want to because Lisa, what you said and then what Penny followed up with just got my brain thinking. So I'm just going to say this. Sometimes we are very actively working with our students on their goals, but what we're not doing is documenting that. So I want to make sure that as you all being newer to this, hear us. We're not saying that you're not. What we're saying is, in the nicest of ways, if you don't write it down, it's like it didn't happen, right? So those of you that work with me have heard me say that phrase quite a bit. So I just want to make sure, I'm a little silly. It's part of my personality, but take the few seconds to write down what you did, or mark off what you did, or circle what you did, or plus or minus what you did, because that's what's going to make the difference. Oftentimes I go in and they're like, oh, no, Miss Cheryl, look. And it's like, oh, yes, I see, but where's the data, right? So part of the IEP process includes that data and progress monitoring. So don't get so bogged down in, I'm not doing it. Know that when you are doing it, part of what's really important is documenting what you're doing. And sometimes what happens is, it's been happening a lot more than the 4 times, but we only have 4 times written down. Are you guys following me, what I'm saying? All right. Thank you. Very important. Write down what you do.
Thank you for adding that. Such an important piece. So you can see up here on the screen, these are 2 options for IEP trainings that you can attend. The first one is called Beginner's Guide to Writing Effective IEPs, and then Writing Quality IEP Goals. So if you go to the PeopleSoft portal, the PeopleSoft tile in your portal and click on My eLearning, you can search for either of those trainings and it will give you training dates that are available, and they will go into way more detail about what an IEP should include, how it should look, all of those things.
So these are some resources that we're going to dig into in just a moment, but we want to be able to split kind of. I know some of you teach all students on standards, some of you teach all students on access points, and some of you have a mix. So we want to allow you guys to go into the group that you feel would be best for the learners that you have. And we're going to take just about 10 minutes to kind of show you around, show you some resources. So Penny's going to kind of lead one of those and Anne's going to lead the other. And now that I'm thinking about it, Lauren and Cheryl, I'm trying to think about the easiest way to break everybody up here. So, okay, let's do this. Use your raise hand feature if you want to be in the access points group. And let's try it that way. Okay. So access is going to be,
And again, only if you have students on access points.
right.
Lisa, do you have groups open or do you want me to do it?
I'm working on it.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. I want to clear them. Okay, so access is going to be in, okay. Just call out who has their hand raised for me, Lauren.
Nula?
Yep.
Jessica, I saw your hand raised and then you put it down. Are you teaching students on access points? Nula, we got you. Now, based on the survey that was sent out, Ms. Lintog, I have that you have students on access points. You have Blender. Okay, Jessica, so you're going to stay.
Okay. So we just have Nula. That's going to be in that group for today.
Based on the survey, Miss Mantia, but I do not see her with us.
Right.
Miss Hughes, Miss Lintog.
Yes,
You're here. Are you students on access points? Okay.
Yes.
Michelle Lintog, you can add her as well.
Okay. All right. And then the rest of them are going to go with the standards. Okay, so I'm going to open these breakout rooms. I'm going to put it on like a 10-minute timer, and then we will come back here in 10 minutes. All right. Hold on 1 second. Okay. And then Cheryl and Lauren, we can just pop into whichever ones.
Okay, I don't have any that I see.
I
How do
didn't
I
assign
pop
you
in?
guys to one because I didn't know which.
Okay, I'm fine. Honestly, I'm fine here. I'm trying to get.
Lisa, I'll go whichever one you don't go to. Which one you want to go to?
All right, I'll go to standards. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll monitor here.
Perfect. Thank you.
Miss Stout and Miss Stern, did you guys get a breakout room?
Blender, no, I didn't.
So you should be going with general standards.
General standards.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And Miss Stout, you as well.
okay, where are the breakout rooms?
Oh, they didn't assign you. Hang on, I'm
Yeah.
working on it.
Is that the best one for me since I have multi-level class?
Yes, ma'am.
That would be.
That would be. Please add Stern to the Gen Ed room. All right, she's going to add you in just a second, okay?
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Thank you for your patience and welcome.
Thank you.
Can you add Miss Stern to the room? Because I was trying, but I'm not able to. Thank you. Maybe I'm looking the wrong thing.
Okay, you were in there before, Miss Stern, but I just added you again. Is it showing it for you now?
Where do I click?
It should
Oh.
be giving you a notification to join.
Oh,
Yep.
You see it? There we go.
I asked Miss Stout, but I'm not sure she's.
Okay. All right, everyone. Well, welcome back. We hope that that was helpful to you guys, that you maybe learned something new, and that I know that just barely scratches the surface of all things that are Blender, but I think sometimes people feel that Blender is a little overwhelming sometimes because it has a lot in there. So while the things are really good, I think even just seeing a little bit of like, here's where it is, it makes it feel a little less daunting. So we really appreciate that, Penny and Anne. Thank you for that. Here's a couple Google Classrooms if you'd like to join them. That might be helpful for you. There's an elementary school access points one. So if you do teach students on access points, that's the code. And we will post these slides in our Google Classroom for the new teacher support program. So you can go back to these if you don't have time to jot them down now. There's also one for assistive technology, and they provide a lot of great resources for your students who, and whether or not they have prescribed devices or anything, there's just a lot of really good things in there to support communication in your classroom. And then the social skills and behavior support Google Classroom is something that's run by our team. And then what you're going to really find in there is a behavior tip of the week that our team posts every Monday. And so those are short little videos that might be really helpful to you. So you can join all 3 of those Google Classrooms if you'd like to. Lauren, refresh because I changed the slide.
Okie dokie, will do.
I'm not sure why I didn't. There we go. Now go back to
it. Thank you for bearing with us, guys. Technology.
Okay.
Here we go.
So this is your follow-up coaching for this month. It's actually going to be a survey. So last month we came out, we did a little observation. Also your ESE contact and a school-based administrator should be doing that for you too. We plan to share those results with you before we meet on October 13th for our in-person PD together. But this month, we're going to ask you to fill out this survey regarding standards and access points. So this is just for you. It will be sent to you today after we finish here. And it's going to ask you about each subject area and how you're doing and what your needs are. And this is going to help us tailor our follow-up coaching for you. So for example, you'll put your name and then reading language arts, you'll check off like, I need support in this area. I need materials. You can check multiple things, or if you're good to go, you can check I'm good to go. So what we'll do is we'll utilize the responses from this to help either with what we're going to do in follow-up or help connect you to the people who might be able to assist you in those areas. So as soon as you guys fill that out, we can start working on those things. And we hope that we're able to provide some more assistance and individualized support in that way.
Right. And just to echo what Lisa said, so there will not be an observation this month. It's more going to be us connecting with you, maybe via phone, maybe via Google Meet. We'll set up a time and either connect with you or connect you with the person who can help answer the questions that you have. We know it's 3:04. Thank you for sticking with us. You are free to go. It is past your time. So thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. But if you have any additional questions, we will hang out for just a couple minutes. Anything specific to what we talked about today or even last session or just any general questions.
Thank you guys. We'll see you in person next month.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Penny and Ann. We appreciate you.